Okay, so let's dive in. When we talk about solids and wastewater, you might think, well, it sounds pretty straightforward, right? But actually figuring out what's in the water, that's a whole different game. It's quite complex and really crucial for everything from purification to, environmental health.
Absolutely. And the definitions we use, they have to be incredibly precise.
Exactly. Our source today, Definitions for Solids Found in Wastewater, really shows just how precise. So this deep dive is all about getting you up to speed on these key distinctions and, frankly, why they matter so much.
Yeah, it's fascinating stuff because these definitions, they underpin so much environmental analysis. Think treatment plant design, water quality monitoring. It all circles back to these terms. We'll be looking at total solids, TS.
That's the starting point, the overall measure.
Right. The total dry weight after evaporation. Your baseline, everything in their number. Then there's total volatile solids, TVS, and total fixed solids, TFS.
Breaking it down by what burns off.
Yeah. Exactly. Organic versus inorganic, essentially.
Right.
We'll get into that. Then total suspended solids, TSS.
The stuff floating around.
The stuff caught by a filter, yeah. Then volatile suspended solids, VSS, and fixed suspended solids, FSS.
Same idea, organic versus inorganic, but just for the suspended bits.
Precisely. And then total dissolved solids, TDS.
Okay, so what doesn't get caught by the filter?
Right, including those really tiny colloidal particles, the invisible stuff, and naturally, volatile dissolved solids, VDS, and fixed dissolved solids, FDS.
Organic and inorganic parts of the dissolved fraction. Makes sense.
And finally, settleable solids.
The heavy stuff that just drops out.
You got it. The stuff that settles on its own.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Understanding each piece helps build that complete picture of water quality. It guides some pretty critical decisions.
Definitely. So starting with total solids, TS, it's basically the residue left after you evaporate a sample and dry it thoroughly, usually around 103 to 105 degrees Celsius. Think of it as the total mass of everything that wasn't water.
Okay, the total stuff. And then you mentioned breaking that down further with heat. TVS and TFS. What's the significance there?
Yeah, that's super important. Total volatile solids, TVS, is the portion that burns off or volatilizes when you ignite the TS residue at a much higher temperature, like 500 degrees C, give or take 50.
Burns off. So that's mostly organic material.
Generally, yes. It indicates things like microbes, plant fibers, grease, biodegradable stuff. What doesn't burn off is the total fixed solids, TFS.
Which would be?
Inorganic things like grit, salts, minerals, maybe some metals, things that don't combust at that temperature.
So knowing the TVS, TFS split tells you about the organic load, potential for biological activity, things like that.
Exactly. Or even potential for things like biogas production and some treatment processes.
Fascinating. Okay, so from the total picture, let's zoom in on total suspended solids, TSS. You said that's what a filter catches.
Right. TSS are the solids retained on a specific type of filter, usually a glass fiber filter with a really small pore size, maybe around 1.5 micrometers. After filtering, you dry that filter and the residue at 105 C again. That weight gain is your TSS.
So that's the measure for turbidity, essentially, the cloudiness we see.
It's a major contributor, yeah. The particle's large enough to be physically trapped.
And just like TS, you can break TSS down into volatile and fixed components, VSS and FSS.
You can. Same principle. Ignite the TSS residue at 500 C. The weight loss is the volatile suspended solids. VSS, the organic fraction of the suspended material.
Which is useful for?
Oh, very useful. Especially in wastewater treatment. VSS is often used as an indicator of the amount of active microorganisms, biomass doing the work.
Ah, okay. And the FSS is the inorganic suspended stuff left over.
The inorganic grit and particles, correct.
Right. Now let's talk about what passes through that filter. Total dissolved solids, TDS. You mentioned it includes colloidal solids. That sounds a bit tricky.
It can be. So TDS is measured by taking the water that passed through the TSS filter, evaporating it, and drying the residue. But it's not just truly dissolved ions like salt. It also includes colloids.
Colloids, like super tiny particles.
Exactly. So small, they don't settle easily and can pass through many standard filters, but they aren't truly dissolved molecules either. Think milk or fog. Those have colloidal particles.
Okay, kind of an in-between state.
Right. And they can cause haze, interfere with processes, and are part of that TDS measurement. High TDS can affect taste, suitability for irrigation, cause scaling, lots of impacts.
And I assume you can also figure out the volatile and fixed portions of TDS.
Yep, same process again. Burn the TDS residue at 500 C. The organic part that burns off is volatile dissolved solids, VDS.
Right.
What remains is fixed dissolved solids, FDS, the dissolved salts and minerals.
Giving you that deeper chemical fingerprint, like you said. Okay, one more. Settleable solids. Sounds self-explanatory.
It pretty much is. It's the volume of suspended solids that will settle out of the water by gravity within a set time, typically 1 hour.
How do you measure that? Just let it sit?
Basically, yeah, but in a standardized way. You use a special graduated cone-shaped container called an Imhoff cone, fill it with the liter of sample, wait an hour, and read the volume of sludge settled at the bottom in milliliters per liter.
Very practical.
Yeah.
Tells you what you can get out easily in, say, a sedimentation tank.
Precisely. Key for primary treatment design and operation.
So we've really unpacked quite a bit here, from the overall total solids, breaking it down by volatility organic versus inorganic, then looking at what's suspended, caught by a filter like a Whatman glass fiber one.
And further breaking that down into volatile and fixed.
Right. Then the dissolved fraction that gets through, including those tiny colloids and its volatile and fixed parts.
And finally, the simple practical measure of what just settles out in an Imhoff cone.
It paints a surprisingly detailed picture from something seemingly simple like solids.
It really does.
Yeah.
And if you think bigger picture, this level of detailed classification isn't unique to wastewater. It just shows how meticulously we analyze things to truly understand them. Makes you wonder, doesn't it, what other everyday things, substances we take for granted might have these incredibly detailed, complex classifications hiding just below the surface.
That's definitely something to think about as you go about your day. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the unseen but vital world of wastewater solids.